checkmating capitalism in 3 moves. UnDAO and Do. The 3 moves to checkmate capitalism. Well, first let's talk about what capitalism is. Capitalism is a 15th century paradigm that ultimately came out of Florence, Italy, and it hasn't changed. And the model that we have right now ultimately is the same model that they had back then, and it is devouring our planet. And the first time really in the modern era that people rose up was Occupy Wall Street in 2011. And that time I was here, not too far from here, in the heartland of Zen Buddhism, working on the idea of a decentralized startup built around the Bitcoin framework called Foundups. And when Occupy Wall Street happened, it put my attention on it. And I was like, no. Everything starts with an idea. Ideas become a project or a startup. Startups become these entities. These entities feed the wealth and power cycle that Noam Chomsky so eloquently described in the Requiem for the American Dream, which he started recording in around 2012 and came out like 2014, 13, 14. So the thing is that you have to understand is ownership. Now, the most important ownership is Bitcoin. Now, we wouldn't know that back then, and it would be until now that we realize that Bitcoin is the most important, the most scarce asset, more scarce than gold, more than anything. And capitalism 1.0 is about the ownership of that. I'm not worried about ownership of land or anything else, because whoever owns the Bitcoin owns everything else. And just let's play with that premise, right? The fundamental and the ownership of this Bitcoin ultimately is what capitalism is about. Right now, all these institutional investors and everything are racing to grab as much Bitcoin as they can. That was 2018-19. Then there was 2020 was the Michael Saylor, I call the SaylorEffect, where Saylor came in and said, we're putting corporate assets into this. And because of him, Tesla came in, so that was the SaylorEffect. And then finally, there is the BitClout effect, which I'm going to talk about. And that is people shelling their shit, their coins, their Bitcoin for a shit coin, and that's going to drive all these actions is going to have one result in Bitcoin go up exponential, because there's only so much Bitcoin. The demand for Bitcoin is going to outpace the supply, and when there's a supply and demand issue, it's basic economics 101. It goes up. So to checkmate capitalism, I realize, or in hindsight, I'll tell you in hindsight, looking back, you look back and go, holy shit, I checkmate capitalism in 3 moves. You can never go to Wall Street and change it, so you have to create a new playground, and this new playground is called the blockchain. So it's a sandbox, right? You have to create that. That's move 1, is you need to have an environment where people can move to from the old system to the new system, number 1. Actually, number 1 is you need Bitcoin. So I guess that's already there, right? You need Bitcoin. So without Bitcoin to replace fiat, right? So UnDAO and Do. The second one is the blockchain, which is the DAO, which allows for the creation of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Now, the first DAO was in June of 2016. It got hacked, and that basically kicked investors in the balls, and they really want to look at a DAO again after that event. And it was the forking of Ethereum Classic that created Ethereum. Ethereum is a fork of Ethereum Classic. Most people get that wrong. So fast forward to 2021 is the launch of the first Bitcoin as a platform. The first since Bitcoin of launching. Now, there's been other projects, don't get me wrong, but this is the first unicorn project in the sense of there's going to be over 1 million people on this. There's less than 100,000. They're ramping up very quickly. The FOMO and major investors have come behind BitClout. Over 4,000 Bitcoin in less than a month. Right, less than a month has gone into BitClout. I'll link the address below in the description. You can follow, watch it. And not only that, it ultimately provides the third step. Okay. the forking of BitClout, right? So BitCloutFork, and allowing anyone to launch their own version of BitClout, ushers in this third age. Now, I have a video on how BitClout is incomplete because there's no DAO, and what BitClout is missing is the DAO. Imagine if 4,000 Bitcoin went into this DAO, and everyone who participated in putting Bitcoin in there would get a residual return in the native token of that fork. So in this case, BitClout, or in my case, it will be FUCs. So as Bitcoin goes up in value, the autonomous DAO, right, actually ends up giving you more and more of this UBI, universal basic income. Now imagine applying this to a restaurant. A restaurant runs this, and they have a native restaurant token for their restaurant, or a village or community, right? A school, a university, all have their native token. People come pay tuition with Bitcoin. The algorithm calculates basically the actual cost of that tuition based on the salaries and everything else. It's all transparent. It's immutable. There is no hedging because the Bitcoin never leaves the DAO. So you just plug in the equation. What are the salaries? Everything else. There is no, save money for a rainy day sort of stuff, because the residual income coming out, 20% would go towards that organization on top of everything paid in order to grow and everything else. So the forking of BitClout and making it possible for anyone to fork it, that's the fork, grabbing all the libraries. And then having an IOHK type group that facilitates the implementation of that fork for them, for whether university or whatever, community, and so on. So this ultimately ends capitalism, because there is no ownership of the Bitcoin. Remember, in capitalism 1.0, all these entities own the Bitcoin. In capitalism 2.0, this Bitcoin ends up going into the system. So all the Bitcoin in the world is going to go into these DAOs. These DAOs then will underwrite their native token. All these DAOs are distributed DAOs. They're all connected to each other, and facilitating this kind of keiretsu, this non-competitive market. There is no competition in social beneficial capitalism, and the ownership of the Bitcoin is ultimately will end over time, and all the Bitcoin will be in the DAOs. These DAOs will pay for autonomous farming. They will pay for housing. They will pay for all these different things, vehicles for individuals, right? A basic UBI income will come out of your parents' investments into these. In essence, it changes everything. And those are three moves. The first one is we needed Bitcoin. DAO, we needed a blockchain. And third move, we needed BitClout. UnDaoDu is wielding BitClout and forking it so you can be free. I'm UnDaoDu. If you want to learn more, you can reach me on Discord, Foundups.org. You can, a lot of times I idle in Clubhouse. You'll see me sitting in a group by myself with kind of a, with a title that says go to my Twitch/Foundups and Twitch/UnDaoDu are my two Twitch stations. One of them deals is the metaphysics. That's UnDaoDu. Foundups deals with what I'm doing with BitClout and BitBank and so on. Okay, UnDaoDu.